This message comes from Capital One. The Capital One Venture X business card earns unlimited double miles on every purchase. Capital One, what's in your wallet? Terms and conditions apply. Find out more at CapitalOne.com/VentureXBusiness.
Hey, it's Rund. Just a quick thing before we start. This is a special bonus episode of Throughline. Every month, we make exclusive episodes just for our very special Throughline Plus supporters that take listeners behind the scenes of our work. But this month, we thought we'd give everyone a chance to listen. If you're already a Plus supporter, thank you so much. It means a lot to us, and you got first access to this episode in your Plus feed. But if you're not a Plus supporter yet, we hope you'll consider joining. It's a great way to support NPR and public media. Go to plus.npr.org/throughline to join now. Earlier this year, I worked with producer Cristina Kim.
Hey, Rund.
On an episode about nuclear winter theory, which is the idea that if every world power that had nukes started to actually use them, the world would descend into nuclear winter. Think the end of the world a la the end of the dinosaurs.
It was a theory popularized by the astrophysicist Carl Sagan and other scientists in the 1980s. Some credit the theory with helping to avert nuclear war at the height of the Cold War.
A new consciousness is developing which sees the Earth as a single organism and recognizes that an organism at war with itself is doomed.
Sagan was the scientist of the time, in large part because he hosted this public media show called Cosmos that made science accessible and, well, human. He was part scientist, part poet, and 100% magnetic.
We are one planet.
You should check out the episode if you haven't already. But we're telling you all this because while Carl Sagan was bringing nuclear winter theory to U.S. audiences, he had a Soviet counterpart.
Vladimir Alexandrov.
Vladimir Alexandrov.
He was handsome and young, and he spoke a decent amount of English and had a sort of a fluency that let him befriend many American scientists.
This is Andrew Revkin. We interviewed him for the original episode because he wrote a big cover story for Science Digest magazine about nuclear winter theory in 1985.
And that's when he told us that over the course of covering the nuclear winter story, something happened that the global scientific community couldn't explain.
Not long after, my piece ran in March of 1985 in Science Digest magazine. And it was just a month or two later, I started getting emails and I think a call from some of the scientists I had interviewed saying that one of their Soviet colleagues had appeared to have vanished. And this was Vladimir Alexandrov.
At the height of his scientific career, Vladimir Alexandrov had disappeared.
Ever since I heard this story, I haven't been able to stop thinking about it. Where did Alexandrov go? Why would he want to disappear? Or who might have wanted him gone?
And so, for this month's Throughline Plus episode, we're leaning into the infamous genre of true crime.
Oh boy.
Just kidding. We won't be recording ourselves in a car as we chase down a red herring lead. We don't have that kind of budget.
But we will be bringing you the mystery of Vladimir Alexandrov with help from Andrew Revkin.
This message comes from Charles Schwab. When it comes to managing your wealth, Schwab gives you more choices, like full-service wealth management and advice when you need it. You can also invest on your own and trade on Thinkorswim. Visit schwab.com to learn more.
This message comes from Whole Foods Market. Get Thanksgiving ready with quality and savings at Whole Foods Market. Their 365 brand offers great prices and the high standards you count on. Prime members can pick up no antibiotics ever turkeys starting at just $1.49 a pound. Complete your feast with classic sides. Think mashed potatoes, condensed soups, and fresh organic produce like green beans, mushrooms, and carrots. Shop low prices and high quality in-store or online. Terms apply.
This message comes from the Council for Interior Design Qualification. Interior designer and CIDQ president Siavash Madani describes his fundamentals of interior design.
I think interior design is about responsibility. It's not just the way a space looks or the way a space photographs. To me, better design means functional, safe, accessible, and inclusive design.
Learn more at cidq.org/NPR.
This message comes from Capital One. The Capital One Venture X business card has no preset spending limit, so the card's purchasing power can adapt to meet business needs. Plus, the card earns unlimited double miles on every purchase, so the more a business spends, the more miles earned. And when traveling, the Venture X business card grants access to over 1,000 airport lounges. The Venture X business card. What's in your wallet? Terms and conditions apply. Find out more at CapitalOne.com/VentureXBusiness.
This message comes from BetterHelp. Most FSA dollars expire at the end of the year, so it's time to use them or lose them. With BetterHelp, you can invest those funds in taking care of your mind with online therapy. Join today and you can be matched with a licensed therapist in as little as 24 hours. Visit BetterHelp.com/NPR to get 10% off your first month.
Okay, so here's what we know.
Alexandrov's specialty was atmospheric science, but he got on the nuclear winter train pretty quickly.
He was sort of groomed to be the public face of this issue.
At the time, Revkin wrote, quote, "Central casting could not have provided the Soviets with a more attractive spokesman. Tall and charismatic, Alexandrov had a charming wife and a chubby, rock music-loving daughter, a command of English and Italian, a craving for barbecued spare ribs and hamburgers, and a taste for Western films and popular novels."
Pretty much the perfect guy to pair up with the charismatic Carl Sagan.
I think Sagan recognized the value of Alexandrov as a public voice from that side of the question.
Sagan and Alexandrov got together to spread the word that it would be best for the whole world if the U.S. and the Soviet Union didn't use their nukes to blow each other up.
He was already kind of on this world tour, often along with Carl Sagan and or others, to try to beat the drum of disarmament, and that nuclear winter demonstrated that nuclear war was unwinnable.
Alexandrov went to the Vatican to talk to the Pope. He was on U.S. TV, and he even
testified in Congress.
And all of this was possible because at this time, during the Cold War, science was both a means by which the two powers wanted to win, think arms race, but also the bridge.
There was this sort of détente, glasnost effort to use science as a bridge between the Russians and the United States. Alexandrov, he was part of that.
As part of this exchange, Alexandrov spent a lot of time in the U.S. with American scientists.
They were congenial friends of his. He had spent enough time in the United States that he had an Oregon driver's license. This is a Soviet scientist in the early 80s.
Alexandrov was a public figure, the Soviet Carl Sagan, friend to American scientists. And no one could have predicted that he would simply disappear on a work trip to Spain. But that's exactly what happened.
Alexandrov traveled to Spain in March 1985 to attend a conference in Córdoba.
He was speaking at a nuclear-free zone meeting. It was mayors from nuclear cities around the world that wanted to declare that we won't house nuclear weapons here, we won't support nuclear war.
So nothing too out of the ordinary for Alexandrov. He's doing his thing, spreading the word about disarmament. But from the start of his trip to Spain, something had seemed off.
According to the timeline Revkin pieced together through his reporting, Alexandrov arrived in Madrid, and even though there's a Spanish chauffeur waiting for him, he's escorted immediately from the airport to the Soviet embassy by embassy staff. After about half an hour, Alexandrov emerged and immediately asked the Spanish driver who was waiting nearby to take him to a bar, any bar.
He was very distraught.
Alexandrov got drunk and spent the 5-hour car ride to Córdoba, where the conference was taking place, alternating between sleeping and getting sick.
That night, after arriving and getting set up in his room, he goes out.
He was seen drinking a lot.
And is found by Spanish police lying in the street unconscious. His friends later tell Revkin this is not like Alexandrov.
I've tossed a few vodkas down with him on occasion, but he certainly was not a heavy drinker. Bob Sess, atmospheric scientist at the State University of New York, Stony Brook.
He's drunk throughout the 3 days of the conference. He refuses to talk to the press. The Spanish newspaper El País writes, quote, "No one saw him until Sunday morning, when he turned up at the conference headquarters in a state of apparent inebriation."
And by Sunday, the conference is over. His original Spanish driver, plus an additional driver for support, are tasked with taking Alexandrov back to Madrid.
According to the driver, Alexandrov is like, "Airport, airport, airport." And the driver's like, "Sí, claro." But really, no. The folks from Córdoba have told the driver to take him back to the Soviet embassy.
Okay, and here's where the details get lost in contradictions. This is what we know based on reporting Andrew Revkin did shortly after Alexandrov disappeared.
Alexandrov reportedly starts to act violently in the car. The drivers are then asked to take him to Hotel Apartamentos Habana. The drivers refuse.
There are reports of him being bundled into a van.
Some say he's put into a van by embassy officials and dropped off at the hotel. According to the receptionist, who was not on duty at the time Alexandrov arrived, but whose friend was, Alexandrov was not drunk or disheveled and was given a room key.
Okay, so important note here. Several sources, including some with connections to intelligence, told Revkin that at the time, Hotel Habana had a close relationship with the Soviet embassy. So anything the hotel employees told him needed to be taken with a grain of salt.
So then, again, according to the receptionist at that hotel, Alexandrov left the hotel and did not spend the night there. The next day, when representatives from the Soviet embassy came, he wasn't there. So they took his belongings, paid his bill, and left.
And that's where the case ends. Since that night, Alexandrov hasn't been seen ever again. There were a lot of questions, but
there's no body.
At the time, it all seemed a bit hush-hush. The Spanish authorities and press are not reporting that he's missing. In fact, it's Alexandrov's American scientist friends that start to ring the alarm. And they actually call up Andrew Revkin and say,
"We need help. Can you help us find him?"
Andrew started digging into it. Where was Vladimir Alexandrov?
There was tons of information that I pulled together. I had many different lines of evidence leading to why he might have vanished, but it all kind of ended up murky.
There were a lot of questions and ideas of what exactly had happened.
There are theories that the Cuban operatives in Spain had maybe been too heavy-handed.
There was the idea that Cuban security guards at the Soviet embassy roughed him up too much. Or, as his friends hoped, that he had simply defected from the Soviet Union and was starting a new life elsewhere.
Who knows? Maybe it'll have a happy ending and we'll find him on a beach in Greece with a girlfriend.
But his friends, like American scientist Bob Chevron, weren't optimistic.
My gut feeling? I think I'm fairly safe in saying we will never hear from him again or see him again.
Everything leads to him being killed for reasons that can only be examined and not nailed down firmly without someone in the Soviet Union, someone in Russia coming out with a clear basis for information.
The prevailing theory is that Alexandrov was killed. But by who and why? Without more information from Russia, it's hard to piece it all together, according to Andrew Revkin. But there is some information that's come to light that helps us understand what could have been a possible motive.
I do think some of that relates to some of the questions about whether he was a spy for us or a spy for them in terms of technology access.
Was he a spy, a double agent?
There was a telling moment late in his life, just before he vanished, actually, when the visa he was granted for his last visit to the United States was marked he should have no access to supercomputers. So someone within the United States government was starting to get concerned about his level of access to technology here. There are many, I can go on and on about why that is unlikely to have been a real issue, but it was seen to be an issue by the State Department.
Revkin can't confirm one way or another, but he knows that the U.S. government was keeping close tabs on Alexandrov.
they were tracking him very carefully because of his access to American supercomputing technology in the 80s and late 70s.
The U.S. State Department limited how much Alexandrov knew about the USA's supercomputers. And they were well aware that the Soviet government had supported his role as the Soviet face of nuclear winter theory.
He was put forward by others within the Soviet science apparatus to direct his attention to nuclear winter.
Had the U.S. decided he knew too much? Or had the Soviet Union feared they'd lost him to the West, especially the more he promoted nuclear winter theory? Was he caught sharing information to one side or both sides? Or had he simply been the victim of professional rivalry or a mental breakdown from the pressures of being such a prominent scientist?
In the end, there's always more questions than answers. Andrew Revkin tried as best as he could to piece it together in 1986, a year after Alexandrov first went missing. He didn't provide anything conclusive, but some people in power did think he tipped the scales.
When my story on the disappearance of Vladimir Alexandrov ran, there was an article in the Literatnaya Gazeta, a Soviet publication. They thought that my implications in my article on Alexandrov, that he had been kidnapped and perhaps murdered or accidentally killed by Russian operatives, they didn't like that very much.
Today, we still don't know what happened to Vladimir Alexandrov. Andrew Revkin is still thinking about it. He's currently working with a British documentary team trying to find answers, to understand how and why the Soviets' leading scientist on nuclear winter theory vanished and was never found. Okay, that concludes this bonus episode of Throughline Plus. If you're already a Plus supporter, thank you. And if you aren't yet, we hope you'll consider joining for exclusive content just like this. It's a great way to support NPR, public media, and of course, Throughline. Go to plus.npr.org/Throughline to join now. And thank you.
This message comes from Vital Farms, who works with small American farms to bring you pasture-raised eggs. Farmer Tanner Pace shares a moment that brings him a sense of purpose.
I think that when the barn doors open and the hens run to the paddocks, you can truly see what a happy hen really is. I love pasture-raised eggs because you can see the work and the pride that the farmers have and have put into these eggs.
To learn more about how Vital Farms farmers care for their hens, visit vitalfarms.com. This message comes from Mint Mobile. Starting at $15 a month, make the switch at mintmobile.com/switch. $45 upfront payment for 3 months. 5 gigabyte plan equivalent to $15 a month. Taxes and fees extra. First 3 months only. See terms.
This message comes from Solidigm. Yesterday's approach to storage can't meet the demands of today's AI ambitions. Bigger, faster, and more energy efficient, Solidigm solid-state storage solutions are optimized for AI. Learn more at storageforai.com.